I'm Tamara, and this is TELUS Talks with Tamara Taggart. We're bringing together experts, thinkers, and leaders, busting myths, sharing stories, and staying connected when Canadians need it the most. We're having unexpected conversations for unprecedented times. Hi, everyone. Today I'm talking to Dr. Elke Walsh, who has been working in education for over 2 decades. And today we're going to talk about education and COVID-19. Dr. Walsh, Elke, what do you prefer?
Elke, please.
Okay. So nice to talk to you. And I mean, this is something that so many of us are dealing with right now is our kids. We're worried about their education. We're worried about, how they're all handling all this online time. And I mean, maybe you could give us just a little bit of an idea of your background when it comes to education, because I know this is a huge passion of yours.
It really is. And, it's built off of really what is 20 years in post-secondary education, planning out new programs, teaching students. So I taught students both at Humber College and also at McMaster University. And then as a chief education officer at the Calgary Science Center, where working with K to 12 students and their teachers to really create those innovation experiences for students and get them excited about what they could possibly do with that creativity.
Okay, so I mean, March 13th was the last day of school for my kids. And it seems like I can't believe that we're in May. It's hard to believe. So when you first heard that, school was not going back, what were your immediate thoughts?
Tamara, I've got 2 kids myself. They're in grade 6 and going into grade 10. And I was a little bit nervous for them. They're teachers who care so deeply about what they do and engaging them in the classrooms. And especially in K to 12, online learning and virtual learning is just not something that we typically do. It's so much more experiential and about community development and building out those social skills as much as the technical skills. So I was a little worried, especially for the K to 12. And then thinking about how far we've come in post-secondary education, where our universities and colleges in Canada are doing an amazing job of building out experiential learning for their students, regardless of their program. I was a little nervous about what that was going to mean for everyone.
Yeah, I mean, me too. I still am because, it's funny. We all have different learners and we all learn differently, even as adults, right? And I think we know so much more now. And I know as a parent, I know that with my 3 kids, like you, I have someone in grade 6, someone in grade 7, someone in grade 4, and they're all very different learners.
Yeah.
My son has Down syndrome, so that's a whole other conversation that we won't have right now about special education because that's very complex, especially when it comes to online learning. But when you look at your typical students in school right now, and you talked about the social aspect of it. That's what I've noticed is missing but we're all missing it because we're all in self-isolation. But kids, it's different because, especially teenagers, right? Because that's a huge part of who they are is their social world. So what do you, when you think about the social aspect, when we take that part out of the learning, but I guess it all is learning, isn't it?
Well, it really is. And, one of the things that I've been watching the kids do and the teachers are trying to do is create more collaboration with the kids online. But I think we also have to remember that learning happens everywhere. And so, I've got 2 kids with dyslexia. I worry about that as well, making sure that they've got the opportunities to engage. And in a traditional classroom, that can be really hard for kids who face barriers. In this online environment, though, where they've got so much more autonomy to think about when and how long they're going to engage in an activity that is designed by their teachers, that's really empowering for them. So watching them, for me, that's been a huge benefit of this environment, is watching them grow as that independent learner. But I think it's also important that we don't forget that our kids deserve an opportunity to go and explore and learn about things that they're just interested in. And, before COVID, we talked a lot about find your passion, find your strength, be brave and courageous and fail and learn to pick yourself back up again and learn from that failure. And now in COVID-19, I'm seeing more and more this fear of failing, this fear of going out and exploring. And how do we get the kids to just learn their times tables? Well, there are lots of ways they can do that. Learning is not boxed in a traditional classroom, nor is it boxed into an online environment. And I think there is every opportunity to just help our kids go and start doing some of those passion projects that they define for themselves, and really help them just nurture that love and passion for just exploring.
Okay, so what do you say to parents who, can't seem to balance? I mean, I'm one of them, the online schoolwork, and then you're also trying to do your housework and trying to either find work or continue to work at the job that you have. Or how do we find this balance? What do you tell parents?
Yeah, I'm with you. Balancing my partner, he works, I work. Two teenage boys, trying to do schoolwork, helping them just try and find some of that passion that they want to go out and do something with. And it's never going to be perfect. And I think that's one of the really important things. When we think about how we've scheduled our kids to go and do all of their activities, there is a real wonderful lesson in this COVID-19 around letting go of some of that perfection and just letting kids be bored a little bit, and figure out what they're going to do. There's so much when we think about some of the great innovators of our time, and in history. Much of that innovation was born out of boredom. And so one of the things why I'm not worrying about what the future looks like, because whatever the future for learning and for our kids is going to look like, it will be different than what we've known so far. But if we allow them to go out and really tap into that curiosity to ask a question and then go out and find it, I think they're going to find their path rather than walking the path that we are trying so hard to clear for them. So rather than preparing the world for them, we're going to prepare them for the world. And I think that's part of building out that curiosity.
Yeah, it is so true. I think, I was always bored as a kid, and it is where great, ideas come from, that alone time and learning how to, it's very interesting. So our education system, the way it is now, one thing I've realized myself about education is that it seems very resistant to change. It's hard to change things, the things that we're teaching in school, the way that we're teaching, like it's very resistant. And maybe that's because there's so many people involved, but do you think that our education system is broken, or this is a good wake-up call?
I think this has been a wonderful opportunity for educators to really, really start thinking through hard the conversations we'd started before COVID. There have been a lot of conversations about how do we support kids to develop out digital skills? How do we help them have that innovation, that creativity, that desire to go out and build for the future? But when we think about where the system has been, there's been a lot of emphasis on conforming and assessment and having students fit into the boxes that we've created, because we know that recipe works for what is success, but success for what is an old model. And if we look back in time, whenever the world has had one of these great reset moments, education has always adapted and evolved to meet whatever it is that society moves into. It's how we actually got this current educational model as we were moving into the post-Depression era and after World War II, the massification of education so that everybody could have an opportunity. Well, this is our great opportunity to start to think through how do we change the way that we are helping students develop out the skills that are needed and do so for a world that is fundamentally different from what we knew. That's going to require some bravery, though. So there are going to need to be educators and education leaders and policy thinkers who need to work together around what does an infrastructure look like? What's the funding model? Do we really need kids to come in Monday to Friday and sit in a classroom of 30 students? What if we did something differently? What if we kept up with some sort of hybrid learning that was promoting some that really flipped classroom where students are online reading, watching videos, in developing out those digital skills, that digital fluency that we keep talking about? And what if they came into school for a couple of days and started working on projects in much smaller groups where their teachers could really see them and engage? Why do our classrooms have to be about 30 students? Why don't we rethink this entire way that we're engaging our students in that learning journey? Now's the time to rethink it. What I'm watching is more and more educators and education leaders starting to ask these kinds of questions. We just can't lose the momentum behind it and really need to be brave about it.
And when I see your face and I hear your voice talking about this, it feels and sounds optimistic. Like this is one of those moments where there is an opportunity, it seems, to grow and be better, and push some boundaries and see how we can improve things. Do you think we could be 100% education online?
I, connection, that people connection, we can't eliminate that. Learning is a team sport. We learn better when we learn together. But there are some times when people can and should be learning some things on their own. Some of that quiet reflection time. But it is a team sport. But there are moments when it works best when we're together in that learning. So something that feels more hybrid is probably a sweet spot, especially for kids who might face some barriers in their learning. Because right now, if they don't get it in class right away and they're not able to process it in the moment and keep up with the class, there are a few things that happen. One, learning becomes the enemy. It becomes stressful, and we know stressed brains don't learn. But if they're able to, in an online environment, go back on some concepts, go back on their own pace, and really work through some of that skill development, we're going to see some of that self-esteem go up, and we're going to see some of that love of learning come back for a lot of students that face these barriers. And I think we can't discount that as we're imagining what the future of learning and that system needs to look like, the power of a teacher to really just light that spark in a student, we can't eliminate that. That's so important that
Mm-hmm.
be there. And what does that inclusive system look like? Now's the chance to design it.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think we can all look back and think of our favorite teachers.
Right.
The teachers that inspired us to do something, or, pushed us to try something new, or really just, was that comforting face, in your day. And I agree with you. I think it would be very dangerous to lose that, because teachers are so important in our development, especially the good ones. And there are so many good ones that really make a difference for so many of us. What about, when we talk about being digital, it's not always inclusive, right? Because we have so many kids that are living in poverty and they don't have access to, an iPad or a laptop or any technology really. And that's a huge portion of children in our country. And I look at the school that my one of my kids is at, and the parents, the PAC, we raised thousands and thousands of dollars to get some iPads into the school. And thank goodness we've done that, because we've been able to, lend them out to the kids that need them. So how do does this, moving, if we were to move forward in this way, you're talking about policies and ideas where we have to think of everybody. So it's all inclusive.
Exactly. And there are so many things that can be done around this. And we've seen some of that effort already happen in response to COVID. where there is access to Wi-Fi and internet starting to be provided to kids who come from at-risk environments. We also are watching that kind of fundraising, the choices being made by institutions, K to 12 and post-secondary, about diverting their dollars to support access to these kinds of tools, so that everybody has that access. I think what COVID has helped really unearth for all of us in education is just how expansive that need for access to the right tools for learning really is. And so we need to make better choices. That's part of that new system design. We need to make different choices about how we're investing in learning so that everyone comes to it. And that's the thing that I think is the best opportunity in this. We know as educators, many of us get into education because we know it transforms a life. It fundamentally changes outcomes, health outcomes, economic outcomes. The likelihood of, it decreases whether or not the chances of someone going to jail will happen. These are all incredible outcomes for society. How do we just make it that much more reachable, and not just to engage, but to complete high school and complete post-secondary education? So, it's those pieces that as we start thinking this through, it's access to computers, it's access to Wi-Fi, and what's more is it's access to supports and other learning opportunities. I think about what we're doing at Microsoft around providing opportunities for educators. So we're helping them develop out the lesson plans and the digital content so that they can stay current, and helping them as teachers embed that in their learning experiences. And with that comes social emotional skills and online digital safety. I think about TellusWise and the digital tools to help keep kids safe while they're online. These are all the tools. This is about community coming together to make for a really prosperous future. We've got these tools. Now we just need to go and stitch them together in a really different kind of way that's powerful for us.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned Microsoft. So you are an educator who
Mm-hmm.
now works with Microsoft.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because my son's school uses the Microsoft Teams.
Mm-hmm.
So of course I had to learn how to use all of this. And the teachers all had to learn how to use all of this. And it's pretty incredible how fast we can pick up on it, right? You just need to spend time. What I want to know is in your background with Microsoft and as an educator, can I leave my kids alone to do their online school? So let's just take my 9-year-old and my 11-year-old. They seem like they're self-starters. They're really into it, and they go and do their work and they get their homework done. And
Yeah.
where should I be? Should I be hovering over them, or am I okay to step back and let them work with their teacher on this?
I try and set them up. So the approach that I take is, make sure they're logged into the site and they have in front of them the proper location. I start my Mondays with the kids orienting to what's on their site, and where the expectations are, so we all know. There's a great opportunity around letting them engage with with themselves as independent learners to figure some of these pieces out. I think that's a really important skill set for them to develop. And the other aspect is that the educators are there. Their teachers want to be engaged in this with them. And so most teachers have started some sort of online chat group or video conferencing they're doing with the students. Really, I think it's about taking advantage of those situations, and really helping your young person figure out that there is this broader community. It's not just them. It's not just mom or dad. They can take ownership. They have agency, but they also have the support of their team of educators. I try and give as much independence as possible while just keeping track that they're actually doing what they're supposed to. Because our kids are savvy kids. They know how to access YouTube. They know how to go and find Netflix. I think we just have to make sure that they're actually doing their schoolwork.
Yeah. And it's, when it comes to expectations,
Mhm.
parental expectations. Do you think that, yeah, I mean, you mentioned it earlier on in our conversation about, our kids are so scheduled and so, and that this is a huge shift for many of us. We're used to driving here, there, and everywhere and being at school at 3 to pick people up and, get them to a swimming lesson or whatever it might be. When it comes to learning now, it's different online. It's not the same as being in school for 6 hours. Should we Are we going to be better at this if we maybe, I don't mean this in a negative way, but sort of like lower our expectations a little bit so that we don't have these? I mean, I don't know where you just gave me a look there.
I don't know that I'd ever lower our expectations. Kids will always reach. And I think, there's tons of science around education and having high standards for kids to reach to. Showing them that we believe in them, that they can achieve. And the kind of online learning that's happening right now, it isn't perfect. There's a lot of room for us to really expand out the quality of that experience. There are many who will say this is kind of emergency mode still while we're learning as educators to evolve the experience for students. That said, I think there is, again, the opportunity to supplement, but not supplement with worksheets and really, this sit at your desk and do homework work. Uh,
Mm.
the opportunity to really, help kids extend that learning and think about, if they're a kid who loves to be active and tactile, why don't they go out and, pick up some Lego and build something? Or if they're older, to go and use a hammer and nails and create something. There is nothing wrong with that kind of exploratory learning. They're learning three-dimensional skills, problem-solving skills. They're learning math and ratios. They may not have the language for it, but that application in the experiential world is there. And so, I think there are these wonderful opportunities to maybe just shift our understanding as adults about how we support that kind of reaching and excellence.
And we all know our own kids the best, and we know what is working and what isn't working. And of course, we have some pretty transparent conversations with our teachers, and which is great because a lot of our educators are also parents and they're dealing with their own stuff at home too. So this is,
Mhm.
a huge learning curve, not only for us as parents, but for the teachers, all of our educators and support workers. We're all kind of, we've been thrown into this and together, and everybody's trying to make it work the best. So, just as we're wrapping up, Elka, I just wanted to ask you about, so Microsoft has this Family Learning
Mhm.
Center. So, tell me a little bit about the Family Learning Center.
Yeah, this is a great resource for families, especially for families. And a real opportunity, what we've put together into one place for students in grade school up to and into junior high, early high school, are some really neat, safe places for them to go and learn about some of the most current things that might interest them. So everything from learning with Lego, the discovery education tools are there. Lots of opportunity for them to go in and explore around some of the things that they're likely to be most interested in. And we wanted to make that tool really easily accessible to families as well, so that when kids are on there, noodling around, trying to figure out what they might be interested in, clicking on things, parents can be really quite confident that what they're going to click on is just great content, and it'll probably spark some of their imagination. So that's what we've tried to do with it, and we've seen a really nice take up with it as well.
Awesome. And I think that you can find that at TELUS.com slash stay connected. So there's that. And just one last question. What do you think are the two most important things that parents should be focusing on right now with their child's education?
I think first and foremost, support them as they are, with kudos, with interest, asking them questions about what they learned and explored today, encouraging them to keep up that dialogue with their teachers. Um, And also really encouraging them to go out and find those passion places. What are the things that are exciting them? This is that great moment to really learn about your young learner and what's inspiring to them. And I know from my own kids that there have been a few moments where they have said, "I never had time in school to do this. I want to do it now."
Mm.
So I bet that's probably a common conversation that most parents would have with their kids if we just give it that chance to go and let their imagination start running.
Yeah, I agree. Dr. Walsh, you are very inspiring and very, I love your optimistic, glass half full passion that you have about education. And I think we need to remember that because sometimes it's really easy to get bogged down in the negativity of the things that we don't have right now, but we're pretty fortunate in the things that are available to us, and knowing that we're, everyone's trying their best right now,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. And this is why I use the term learning more than education.
Mm,
Education is part of our system. It's an institution. Learning is a verb, and it's really something that when we double down on learning, wherever that's going to happen, we double down on the future, and that gets exciting. I don't know how we can get worried when we watch the lights go on as somebody goes and discovers something.
yeah, amazing. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and your energy with us. I really, really appreciate it. And don't forget, you can visit TELUS.com/stay connected to check out Microsoft's Family Learning Center. There's lots of resources there for parents. And you can also visit udiscover.ca to learn more about UDiscover Learning. And be sure to join us here for TELUS Talks with Tamara Taggart every Tuesday and Thursday.